This is my first project for Design Studio 2, where we are finding problems, and I landed on the ongoing issue of the school to prison pipeline. So, the school to prison pipeline is a systemic issue where marginalized students are disproportionately pushed out of education and into the criminal justice system. So, it's an ongoing issue that's going on in our education system, and the enforcement of policies such as zero tolerance and the inclusion of school resource officers, bringing students closer to the criminal justice system and the very place that they're supposed to learn and get an education from, is what's causing this issue. And we can pinpoint it to a ton of things, such as the teacher's gaze and certain biases and prejudices that staffing of these schools may have. But it's a very real issue, and it is harming the students that fall victim into the disciplinary system that is currently enforced in our modern day schools. So, just a little background. Um, this wasn't something that was prevalent until the 1970s, and keeping kids out of school, like suspension and expulsion, wasn't a common disciplinary action. As we could see here, fewer than 4% of students were suspended in 1973, and most of those students were black students, and they had twice the likelihood of getting suspended compared to white students. As I mentioned before, like the teacher's gaze and certain prejudices and biases, teachers were looking out at these students and they were taking more drastic measures to keep these kids out of school, which which is weird, but it's a very real issue, and it's something that can still be seen today, and you can see these biases in our education system. I was involved in high school. I was involved in a case of where I was out of school for a long period of time as a result of a disciplinary measure, and you could see the certain systems that they had in place, and I just so happened to get back into school a lot faster. Um, in the 2000s, there were more inclusions of SROs in hopes of improving school safety. So, with some numbers down below that statement, 3,360 students per SRO, and that's a lot of students per SRO. But um, even with the inclusion of SROs, we're not necessarily making our schools safer, and they weren't getting more dangerous without them. So the inclusion of them just kind of seems unnecessary, and it feels as if we are leaving discipline out of the hands of the school, and straight into the law. Yeah. So when thinking about a solution or how I would, share this issue, get it talked about, it was mostly the conversations that I had with other people. A lot of people that I would go up to when I would be working on, my project and just the process behind it. A lot of people would ask me, what is the school to prison pipeline? It sounds like a conspiracy. But once you explain it, a lot of people have actually gone through this issue. A lot of people have had gone to schools with zero tolerance policy, with heavy, heavy, heavy disciplinary actions. And so they saw this real time. They're impacted by this real time. And especially in our age, I know that my old high school, they have, metal detectors now for whatever reason. And it's just a weird way of trying to make sure things are safe without actually making them safe. Because those very dangerous situations they're rare. They don't happen at every school. Um, but people also just don't know that there were a good amount of people that weren't ever in trouble, in middle school and high school. They don't know the impacts of these disciplinary systems because they simply weren't affected by it. So that might be another reason why they aren't knowledgeable, or they might have seen the SROs as something that was making their environment safer, but they didn't see the results straight up. I also had to consider that this is a systematic issue. So without like any sort of awareness, it's hard for it to be changed because it's mostly up to the educators and the administrators to get rid of the issues, build better policies, more than just keeping the kids out of school. But as individuals and as people that want to belong in a community and want to make the future generations succeed, we have to have knowledge of it, and we have to be able to bring it up and talk to people about it. So my solution was a quick video, kind of like short form social media video, with a lot of flashy symbols and just a quick explanation of it. Because technology has changed, how we process information is different, and I just felt as if a solution that's like, hey, you're scrolling and this is the video that stops you, and you watch it and it's only 40 seconds long. 40 seconds feels like nothing when you're looking at a bunch of stuff transition and shift. So maybe we can get a message across. And so I just want to explain what the pipeline is, and why the pipeline's an issue, and the drawbacks of those two policies, and the SRO officer, or the drawbacks of that policy and SROs are. With the target audience, as I said, I wanted it to be displayed more on social media platforms. I used examples as Instagram or X, formerly known as Twitter. Even TikTok, if that's something that is still available on your phone. So my age range was, definitely on a side that's, young, but like younger but old enough to understand, like, oh, this is like something that, I went through, or I know someone going through, and it's only getting worse, and I know about it, and these buzzwords, that they connect to me, they connect to what I'm viewing, and this could vary if one of the target audiences decide to show it to an educator or an administrator. Um, I'm hoping that the video, as with any project, comes across to a lot of audience, but I am primarily focused on the people that will be going into these fields, and just so they're aware of this. And again, as I mentioned, most people aren't really aware of this issue, so maybe seeing this for the first time could, put that term in their head. And when they see something like that out in the open, they're like, oh, okay, this is what this is, and this is wrong. And these people, as with any, social commentary, they have to be somewhat progressive. They have to want to see change, and they want to see reform, and maybe they have some sort of care for the education system, and it's understandable that most don't because of how it impacted them. But I wanted it to be impactful emotionally in some way. So when I was locating a problem, I was doing mind maps, and so I went two routes. It was design problems and it was social/world issues. And you can see a lot on the right side, which is the social issues, which were the social issues. I delved into youth mental health, and I focused on Denver and addiction and all these things. But, in all honesty, it ties back to our education system. A lot of kids are struggling, a lot of kids are going, through the motion, and they are getting, they're getting ignored, or disciplined or shamed for it. And so, I kind of pushed to this issue, and since it's something that also resonated with me as well, I ended up landing on it. With my visual research, I wanted a display font, and the body text was for this presentation, but that display font, I wanted it to be as soft as the shapes that are seen on the right. The mood board on the right is more of like uh, looking at forms and how forms can change and evolve, and using these simple shapes to convey a message of some sort. And I wasn't really focusing on color with this mood board, and you could see the colors on the left, which are a lot softer, a lot more muted, apart from that yellow, which is a lot harsher. And that's kind of what I wanted out of you know out of this video. But yeah, I landed on Dan Greg. I hope I said that correctly. It's softer. It's a longer looking font. So I was really feeling that for this project. Um, with the storyboards, again, I wanted to focus on how, shapes could change. And you could see some of my notes too on what I would want to say or why I have these things. And, some things obviously changed along the way because when you're making a video, there's a lot of things to balance. But yeah, this is primarily, my storyboard. And if you guys could see my mouse, you could start at the left one is the alternative intro that I ultimately ended up going with. But you could see my process of how will these forms change and how will we continue to keep the viewer invested and listening to maybe something that's not so easy to hear. And so, I went through all of these. And with that, I got my final product, which I'm going to pause real quick. And this is what I got. Um, I'll play the video. The link to the Vimeo is also found in the presentation, which I will leave a link to the YouTube video and a link to the PDF of the presentation once I upload this video. But yeah, this is the video. It's 40 seconds long, and I hope it's something that can be digested well. And then it loops forever. But yeah, that's the video. It's on my Vimeo. But thank you so much for watching this presentation. If you need to contact me or if you have any questions, you can just email me at dplearner04@gmail.com. I'll most likely reply on there. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. These are my references, just a bunch of books and a website that I checked out, and these are wonderful books. I really recommend that you read them. They have a bunch of statistics and graphs. But thank you so much for watching this presentation, and I hope you have a good rest of your week.